I got the clipper. Dennis, if you need it, I'll keep it right here. Okay, good. There we go. Yeah, floor is yours.
Right, good afternoon, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here today. I'll just introduce myself slightly slowly to allow the room to fill up a little bit more, because I want the panel to get the chance to tell you a little bit first time around about them. And then after they've introduced themselves, we will open it up to a big discussion between us, and we think we've got some really interesting things to talk about. So I'm Dennis from London, from Major Events International. I know quite a number of you in the room, but not all of you. Would always welcome the chance to say hello, and nice to have some of the students here as well from so many different countries. And as they launch their career, I'm sure you will enjoy networking with them as well. So a brief reference to Major Events International. We founded the company over 18 years ago, and where it's at now, rather than where it came from, is we sit on both ends of a pipe. And on one end of that pipe is the people who own sports properties. So they could be the established international federations, or they could be the new sports formats that you see that are coming to the market, which are very exciting, but essentially almost private ventures. So there's that end of the pipe. On the other end of the pipe are the destinations, venues, cities, regions who want to attract those sports events. So our job is to find out what both ends of that pipe are seeking to achieve and get them connected. The final but important part is the international companies that want to be present in that market and want to speak to both ends of the pipe. So we run an ecosystem in major sports events, in simple terms. So now the room is virtually full. I think it's a great opportunity to give as much quality time as we can to the panel. So we are not showing any videos. There's only one slide, because I want you to have maximum time to hear the insights from these very authoritative and great people. So I'm going to start first with you, Enda, and then we're going to move down the line. And once they've introduced themselves, I'll be asking the first question. Over to you, Enda.
Thank you, Dennis. Hello, everyone. My name is Enda Connolly. I work with World Rugby, and I am the Director of Events, Team Services and Rugby Operations. So what that means is that I oversee and lead everything to do with the team's participation in a Rugby World Cup for men's and women's tournaments. For me, my priority really is to ensure that teams have everything they need to perform, train, and play. So it's eat, sleep, move, think, plan, prepare, and participate to their best at Rugby World Cups. I've been with World Rugby for 18 years, so not only have I grown up in the company, I've seen it grow and change over the years, and from tournament to tournament, with my first being in New Zealand in 2011. So I've lived in New Zealand, England, then on to Japan, France, and I'm back in England in our London office, and working on old tournaments related to looking to the future for Rugby World Cup 27 in Australia, Rugby World Cup 2031 in the US, and at the moment just recovering from having a really successful tournament in England for Women's Rugby World Cup 2025, which took place recently, and hopefully some of you managed to make it there, and I'm sure we'll touch on it a little bit later. But nice to see you all, and thanks for being here.
Hi guys, nice to meet you, and happy to be here and to share some thoughts and ideas about, well, at least in my eyes, one of the coolest industries. It's the sport industry. My name is Frank Smit from the Netherlands. I have a background over 20 years in the sports industry. A little bit spread out about Olympic Games, Dutch Grand Prix, European Championships, World Cups. Did some UEFA projects. Currently, or well, since 4 years, I work for CM.com. CM is a software company that offers tools to boost your ticket sales, your fan engagement, and try to build up and enrich your data, all by personalized communication. And we try to maximize the fan experience on the one end, and to build up the data profiles on the other end. I work for the sport department, so we are in close contact and working especially for sport organizations, sport associations, federations, but also sport venues, and also often close with marketing agencies. CM.com, a little bit some facts. It is founded in 1999, listed in 2020. It's a Dutch company. The headquarters is located in the Netherlands, but we're operating worldwide. We have around 15 offices in the world, in Italy, France, but also in China, USA, and also here in Barcelona. And I think we have around 750 employees currently, so I have a lot of colleagues. Unfortunately, I can't name them all. But, well, it's a great company. It's really cool to work for, and it's still growing. And yeah, let's take a deeper dive the upcoming 40 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Miriam. I'm actually the Marketing and Communications Director at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, very near to Barcelona, and where every year we have around 14, 15 motorsport events where we can highlight especially the Formula 1 and MotoGP Grand Prix. And my role in the company is being in charge of this department. It is a small department, but we are organizing big things and in charge of all the promotion, all the advertising of the events, communicating with the fans, all the communication of the company, social media, pushing ticket sales, and also organizing different activations at the circuit and around the city to make the events much bigger and improve all the fan engagement. It has been also a long time as Enda at the company. I've been working here for 17 years, and it has also helped to see the evolution of the circuit and the evolution of the motorsport as how it was organized some years ago and how it is being organized actually. And I think it's an interesting talk that we can have this afternoon, and nice to meet you all.
Can I just say, you're probably already thinking about it, but Miriam and I literally left school and came straight to work, so just in case you're wondering.
I think, yes, it was 14, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I'm sure you would agree, audience, that how fantastic to have somebody who's on the right shoulder from World Rugby, an expert supplier, lots of interesting things to talk about, Frank. And then hearing Miriam's perspective, not just on a race circuit, as she's already hinted, but how that circuit is used for different things, and then the citywide activation. So what we're going to try and avoid doing is feeding off each other, because we feel we must follow the flow. So we're trying to get these different perspectives out from their view of the world. And then if there are synergies and links, that's great. Okay, so you will hopefully get a very broad spectrum of input. So hands up who didn't know there was a Women's Rugby World Cup that finished very recently. And if any hands go up, oh, you're in trouble, you guys.
Can't
Okay.
believe it.
I will mark their cards for you.
I will hunt you down
absolutely
later.
ensure that. I think you should probably leave the room. Do you not think? Yeah.
Shame on you. You'll buy tickets for the next one. Rugby World Cup 2029 in
Tickets are
Australia.
on sale, special rates for people at Sportbiz. But no, it was a phenomenal success. So we're going to kick off by giving a bit of airtime to Enda, who is struggling to stay awake after an intensive, whatever it would be, probably about 18 months, 2 years actually. So Enda, just we'll put the slide up now. We just got a couple of facts to put up there. But Enda, just walk us through this, taking your own time. We'll move on to Frank and then Miriam after that.
Thanks, Dennis. Well, for those of you who didn't attend or didn't know, this slide is very important for you all to understand how amazing, impactful and successful our Women's Rugby World Cup was. You missed out big time. But hopefully that will encourage you to join for future World Cups, especially our women's tournaments. So 10 days ago, the final took place in Twickenham, where we had the second biggest crowd attending a Rugby World Cup final of over 80,000. I think if I'm correct, don't dare Google it, but I think Australia in 2003, the final there was the largest so far. we're blown away by the success of it. We never doubted it would be successful, but actually how successful it just kept growing and going, and more engagement, more support. We, as you can see, over 444,000 tickets were sold, which went way above our target. We had 92% capacity. We had 16 teams, by the way, participating over 6 weekends, 32 matches, 8 venues around England. And I suppose Women's Rugby World Cup marked the start of a new beginning for World Rugby and how we deliver Rugby World Cups. In the past, and I've been involved, as I said, way back to New Zealand in 2011, we used to hand over, I suppose, essentially our product, our brand, to the host country, to their government, to their union, and they would deliver Rugby World Cup to the standard that they felt was appropriate. And it was great because I could rock in and say, well, actually, can you change A, B, C, or D? And it's their budget, it cost me nothing. So my champagne taste didn't always go down very well in other countries. And it also meant I wasn't very successful in getting the outcomes that I wanted. And again, always in mind with teams and the rugby element and how do we ensure that we have the best rugby on the pitch. It's by having the best teams and the best facilities, the importance of food and sleeping and training, ensuring that they had their home from home when they came to a Rugby World Cup was always the responsibility of the host country. We changed that model simply because we couldn't influence the standards that we actually wanted, and we had a lot of stop-start from one Rugby World Cup to another, so we had systems and processes that we would use in a Rugby World Cup, shut down, and either start again from scratch or try and redo and be better with limited capacity, because all the knowledge IP would disappear with our previous World Cups. So everything has come in-house. So Women's Rugby World Cup marked the first phase of us being completely responsible. We've nowhere to hide, which is one of the challenges. If things go wrong, I have to answer. If teams aren't happy, they come to me. And I've only myself to blame, or at least explain why outcomes became the outcomes that they were. It was very much a partnership approach, though. We could never have delivered the successful tournament without RFU, as they were the host nation. The UK Sport, incredible support and funding and guidance. Every host city, from York to Manchester to Exeter, where I spent a lot of time, incredible local support, community, volunteers. The stadia themselves were fabulous, sharing their knowledge and experience of how to engage with fans. And then the teams themselves, you know, I was able to bring them on the journey more. I have a team of people who deal with teams on a daily basis, but setting standards, setting goals, communicating the service levels, engaging with teams, getting their feedback to ensure, are we on the right track? And because of our model, we are able to change slightly at any point, or pivot, if anyone's ever watched Friends, pivot, so that we could ensure that we were spending money properly, accurately, and I suppose to the best intentions for teams. Because if teams are performing and are happy, that feeds into fans and helping to spread the word and grow the game. So we, as I said, blown away by the participants, by teams, by fans, the support from our host cities. And one thing, I thought I was cool. I thought I knew all about social media. I really don't, because look, my background is high performance event management, but I'm now learning lots and lots more from tournament to tournament, the importance of content. So we embedded content creators with our teams. 15 out of the 16 teams accepted this great resource, and that helped us get some more behind the scenes content to share on our multiple social media platforms. When I was referencing the cool bit, TikTok is huge. Who knew? But all the teams are doing it, and they were, you know, engaging on TikTok, showcasing the city, showcasing the stadia, engaging with fans. And I have to say, I've worked on, this is my 5th Men's Rugby World Cup in Australia. It was my first Women's Rugby World Cup, and not being biased, but my lord, they are so much more open and engaging and willing and supportive to spreading the word, growing the game, providing content, because there's an opportunity for women's sport, for rugby, to grow our profile and to engage with lots of new fans. We had, I think, if I remember from my facts, 50%, 53% were female, which is great, that attended Rugby World Cup, but 50% hadn't been to a women's rugby game. and I think it was 30% hadn't been to rugby in general. So, and for many of those ticket purchasers, they were bringing kids. So we had a whole new dynamic of catering and accommodating for children, for families, for groups of friends, men and women, boys and girls. And I think what the epic result of our tournament was that it's a game for everybody. Women's sport is growing, it's exciting, rugby's exciting. It still has a huge part to play internationally and amongst many other great sports there. And I think we're still on a high, in between the blues kicking in because it's ended, because we've loved every minute of it, but we're on a high as to how successful it was. And I suppose our next step is trying to maintain that high, working with maintaining the legacy and working with our future hosts and our unions. Because from a men's Rugby World Cup, 85% of the funds made, monies made, go towards reinvesting into the game. So we rely heavily on a men's Rugby World Cup. Our women's sport was definitely an investment piece, but we were blown away by the amount of partners that wanted to be involved. We had 24 commercial partners. That's the most we've ever had for a women's Rugby World Cup. We had so many cities and suppliers and partners that wanted to be involved and be engaged. And we've so many learnings, and because we own this tournament fully, and we were fully responsible for the success, so thank goodness it went well. We can take all of our learnings, our IP, the systems and processes we've used, and carry that through both to men's Rugby World Cups and better ways of doing things, because our men's Rugby World Cups aren't perfect, it's always improving, but that will go forward for 2029 to help make our lives a little bit easier. We work with Wiz for TMS, Tournament Management System, we have WeTrack, we have Eventus for our CADs. So again, we're improving as we go. And listening to, as you know, I'm wearing my team's hats, I'm already biased, but our fans, they want to see more content. They want to see what is going on, who are these people, and the players are stars, I suppose, in their eyes, and people follow people. I definitely think they like to understand what goes on behind the scenes and how do they relate and can they relate. So hats off to our players for being so engaging, being fabulous, and reminding me I need to learn a little bit more about social media and all things TikTok.
Thank you, Enda. I'm going to come on to Frank, who's going to pick up on quite a lot of to do with the fan engagement side, but 2 points since we're here to illustrate trends in the market. One is, you'll have picked up from what Enda said, is that the delivery model of the responsibility for delivering the tournament came within World Rugby. So before it was outsourced. That trend is out there. FIFA are about to do the same thing, and some of the international federations, when they had a world championship before, would fly there with a suitcase, expect everything to be ready. So for those of you supplying into that market, I think it'd be fair to say 3 years ago you wouldn't have spoken to Enda or World Rugby. And those companies she was rattling off that we know, they would have gone, that's nothing to do with us. So that's changing. And I think the second point, if you look at as a percentage of how much Enda spent talking about not the field of play, but the delivery of the events and the wider fan engagement and all the other things. And Frank, I think this is something that you want to specifically pick up on with your tech background and what you've been doing. So anything you want to highlight specifically, we'd be very interested to hear your perspective.
Yes, well, when talking about trends, what we see the last time or last years is that people want to be informed fast and quick, but at the same time also easy. And that's not always that easy to do, because on the other hand, from the back end, you want to build up an engaged relationship. So it's finding a balance between that, and on the other hand, you have like 3-4 parties where you have to deal with it. It's like the fan, so you want to offer a fan experience, you have to sponsor the partners, you want to include them with the activations or what else, and of course yourself, because you have to manage what you have promised, and you have to deliver what you've promised. Well, what's not new is that the mobile phone is almost the remote control of your life. So there it takes place. So try to reach your target group at the channel where they are acting, just for the best seamless and high, highest communication, highest conversion of communication. So what helps is, for example, the agentic AI. John in the previous panel talked about already a bit. And I will share some, I think that's the second trend. So the first one is acting and interacting fast and quick. And the second is how can you do that? And the second trend is that agentic AI will become more and more interesting. So I will give you 2 examples how we deal with it. I think the first one is that last year we did a couple of season card renewals for some volleyball and basketball clubs and football clubs. We did it in a certain way that we thought, okay, we put them or we approach them in one channel and want to finish it over there. So what we did is that we sent out just a WhatsApp with a nice introduction video, maybe from a player or just an introduction text or image, what else? And then it's quite fast, and you have to imagine that someone or your fan is just lying on the couch, he's scrolling on his phone, and then he gets the WhatsApp and he says, okay, is this you? Just a validation. We know it's you because we have your phone number, but is this email address, is that you? Yes. Is this your seat? Yes. Is this your personal details, and are they correct? Yes. Do you want to renew your season card? Yes. Okay, let's agree with the terms and conditions, and here's your payment link. So what we saw is that people were renewing their season card within 1 minute without any step out to log into a single sign-on or log into any online shop to a My account. It is just like no login, no hassle, and let's go ahead. And the coolest thing of that was that we saw afterwards that almost 80% was renewing their season card within the first hour. So that's tremendous numbers. The second thing what we did with the agentic AI was doing our Dutch Grand Prix. That's the Grand Prix of the Netherlands, where we host around 300,000 visitors 1 weekend a year. And of course, you can imagine that we get a lot of incoming questions. So last year, we had over 13,000 incoming questions. And the coolest thing on agentic AI is that it's not longer any for service purposes, but you can do a lot of commercial, you can have a lot of commercial opportunities out of it. So what we did is that people were able to book the ticket for camping to stay. They can switch the ticket. They can change personal details. Because agentic AI can do tasks, it's more or less your personal assistant. And that resulted in really cool numbers, because only 4% should hand it over to a human agent. If you that compare with that with last year, it was 40%. So we made a huge step. And at the same time, we were able to reduce and to scale down the employees from 20 to 2. So that saves a lot of cost. And I think that combination of agentic AI, quick interacting, on the one hand, but also commercial input for sponsors and partners can bring a very nice combination to go ahead. And I think that's a really trend which will continue.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. So, you're talking about a combination of things there. One is the visitor experience, maybe not just the fan, the fact that you've got this very quick, fast doing things, the instant gratification of nobody's got time, doing things quickly, with the commercial potential that delivers with it. So we'll certainly be exploring that a bit more, Frank. So thanks, Your Excellency. Now, Miriam, we've talked about, the first perception is that you're a racetrack, but you're going to tell us a bit more that it's well beyond just a racetrack. So over to you.
Thank you. Well, yeah, as we've been talking previously, the circuit originally, it's a racetrack where we have lots of events, motorsport events every weekend, and especially the Formula One and MotoGP Grand Prix, But in these last years, we have seen the evolution and a change on the model of the motorsport events. In the past, what it happened and what it was relevant and important was what's going on at the track. Nowadays, obviously, it's really important and it's the main attraction of these events, but it's not enough. People want to see, want to enjoy, want to experience the 4 days of the event as a unique experience, And we have to be memorable, we have to be unique, we have to offer them specific content, activations, and entertainment for them. It's obviously important what's going on with the drivers, with the activity, and the battles, and the full throttle that we will enjoy. But it's really important to offer to the motorsport fans and other new targets what they are demanding, And this is why we've been experiencing like a change in the model and trying to do bigger things or make the events a bit greater, no? Doing not only activations and complementing the experience of the fans at the track, but also trying to amplify this experience, this weekend, these 4 days of experience also at the city. And here in Barcelona, for example, we've been organizing in the 3 last years for the Formula One GP, an F1 fan village that it is set up in the city center of Barcelona in Plaza Catalunya. And during the previous week of the event, the people walking around the city, tourists, motorsport fans, families, teenagers, whoever, they can go, they can enter to this F1 village, they can enjoy Formula One activations, but also a kids area, gastronomic space, and a stage with entertainment and music for all kind of people, no? And this makes the events greater, no? Makes the brand themselves big, and it helps us to connect with new audiences. And in the past, we weren't aware of what was going on. No, we were very concentrated in these motorsport fans and offering them what they wanted. But if we need to evolve, to connect with new people, to make the events bigger and to offer a big fan engagement and a big fan experience, we need to hear and to know to everyone, no? And we are now relying more in data, well, in technology, in data, analyzing who is coming, who is our audience, but also who is also interested in being with us, in coming to the circuit and enjoying motorsport events or whatever event that we are organizing. Our facilities permit us to organize motorsport races, but also music festivals, congresses, brand launch presentations, and this is what we need. We need to hear all the surroundings. No, we need to hear, to be attentive to the people, and data helps us a lot. We've also launched recently an application, the Circuit app, to approach, to know much better all the audiences and try to find this point of contact, not only at the beginning when we sell one ticket and that's it, no? We need to be present and we need to contact them, communicate them, and be interesting for them from the beginning until they leave, no? And be successful and that they remember their stay at the circuit as something memorable and they want to repeat, no? At the end, it's what we are looking for, that people enjoy their experience there.
Miriam, I'm going to stick with you in a second. My question I'm going to ask you to talk about is related to the other city-level agencies and how involved are they in supporting this activation you've talked about. And then you've also had some experience, Frank, of delivering these services. So, and you've talked already about activation. So I'm going to make a more general point, then I'm going to come back to you, Miriam, and say, how easy, difficult, what have you learned about citywide integration? The reason why this subject is important is that if you run a Rugby World Cup, FIFA Football World Cup, World Athletics, arguably World Swimming, those are national priorities for those destinations to secure. But broadly within our footprint, there are 80,000 different sports events over a 4-year cycle. And some of those investments by cities or various organizations can be in the millions. So a big question for those of you who've got an opinion I'd like to speak to you about after is this very difficult subject of return on investment. So what is the motivation for hosting a sport event? What do we, the city destination, get back from spending anything from 50,000 euros, but a lot of them are very much higher. And that's what we struggle with every day of the week. So this sort of wider footprint that you've talked, obviously from a World Rugby perspective, I'm guessing, and you mentioned the word brand as well, brand enforcement, there's data on your side. But this is a big, big subject. So I won't take it off on the stage today because I'm more keen to hear about your experience. But it is probably the most contentious issue that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And everybody has a different model, bed nights and whatever. So I just thought I'd, given the panel is about, future sports events, I thought I'd just throw that in. But talk to us a little bit about the city. Does it get excited? Do you have a steering group or whatever? How does it work? And it'll be the same question, Enda, as we come to and yourself from your own. You've got 20 years of experience in the industry, so let's go back down the line that way. Miriam, over to you.
Yeah, well, it was really a challenge for us to organize an F1 fan village at the city center now 3 years ago. And more challenging was to complement this last year with a roadshow at Paseo de Gracia. No, we are a small team. We are around 60 people working every day at the circuit, and it was really a good experience, a very stressful experience, but also a good experience to organize both events complementary to the Grand Prix. No, it's true that the city people like to see what's going on. No, people like to enjoy this kind of events. In the past, what used to happen is that we had the race at the circuit, but the people here in Barcelona or maybe in the surroundings of the circuit didn't really know what was going on. No? It was like an event specifically for the motorsport fans or the fans that were wanting to attend. And with this change of model, what we are trying is to open the events, to make everyone enjoy. No? I'm not able to go to the circuit that weekend, but I'm able to have a look and see some show cars at the F1 Village. I can go with my kids and try a simulator. I can enjoy music, or when we did the roadshow last year, crowds of people were around the main road of Paseo de Gracia enjoying how Formula One drivers were doing their demonstrations. No? And it is something that I think is relevant. If the sports are close to their usual fans, obviously they have huge volume of fans, no? But they need to connect with new audiences. They need to attract new people. And a good example is what MotoGP and Formula One are doing. They were talking about an increase of ladies watching this sport, no? And this is also thanks to their good job that they are doing in promotion, in marketing, in behind the scenes, in trying to share this content, this history, this sport in different ways. But how? No? Not only maybe talking about specifically motorsport, qualifying, and no, maybe some target needs to see the sport with other kind of details, with other kind of look, and this is how you are able to attract, no, and to make everyone participate and enjoy this kind of events, not only the ones that you can see at the circuit, but also the ones the city activations.
Thank you, and that's one of your points, Enda, you were saying, wasn't it, about the female rugby players being much more engaged in this whole journey. So, Frank, you're the content guy, so talk to us about that first. And Enda, I'd be very interested in just so to go back to that point you talked about, how the players got involved and really were part of your activation. So we'll go to Frank first and then come to Enda.
Yeah, I fully agree what Miriam is saying, and I think in the end it all turns down to have the data, not the data from today, but also the data historical. For example, if you have such a great event, you cannot do it on your own, and you have to involve, of course, the local government, the police, the security, or whatever. But they can only do things based on numbers, and numbers you get based on data, and data you get based on communication with your fan, and that starts, like Miriam said, selling a ticket is just a start. It's not ending. Actually, it starts already earlier. If you have like a pre-registration a couple of months before, and you start up a landing page where they can give their interest, it's not obtaining only the name and an email. Start directly asking additional questions. Hey, very nice that you want to come over. How do you want to come over? Is it public transport? Is it by train? Is it by boat? By car? Maybe walking? Is it cycling? As an example, what we have like in the Netherlands, where the Dutch Grand Prix will be held, it's in Zandvoort. It's a very small village close to the beach, and only one way to get there. So you can imagine that in 1 weekend 300,000 visitors are joining one village. This is really hard working. So what we did is, actually not what we did, but they created a perimeter like 20 kilometers around Zandvoort. You were not able, unless you are a citizen of Zandvoort, to enter the perimeter. Exceptions, of course, for buses, etc. So what happens, people were coming by car, took their own bike mee, and then they cycled the remaining part to Zandvoort. But to know that, you have to know and to ask out, is that your travel way of coming? And then we saw, okay, a lot of people were coming by bike. And so we organized a lot of park, instead of park and ride, it was park and bike spots. And I think that's the most important thing that you see what happens. And the same is like at the moment you introduce an event app, you can also introduce the crowd management part by geolocation. We see like on the day of the event from the complete Netherlands where people are coming from. For us, it's not that interesting where people are living. It's more interesting where they're coming from. If your hometown is in the north, but you're traveling from the south, and it's for us important that you come from the south, not you're living in the north. Also a nice sidestep is that based on your geolocation, as you enable that, we can see, for example, during a gate, if it's a really crowded gate, and we see that like 100 people are standing in front of the gate and the tickets are not scanned, we can really fast put them in a segment, send them a push notification and say, hey, we see that you're standing in gate 3, but did you know that you can also 100 meter go to the left and you can also enter on gate 2 where it's quite empty. And then you see on the heat map, you see like the red flag is spread to the left. And that's not only really cool to see, but it's also security-wise very important to combine everything and to involve each partner. And that starts with collecting data in the right way. And that starts not today, that starts already years before. So think ahead when starting it.
And I'll give you this microphone, Ender, if yours. Oh, you had it. You had lots of firsts. So generally, in what we just talked about, what would you like to draw out about either the wider city activation or the engagement fans leveraging the players as part of your marketing campaign, if that's the right term?
We can't do it without the cities. They provided huge support, and similar to what Miriam was saying about having a steering group, we had 8 for representing each stadia in each city that we hosted matches in. And incredible support and guidance, as I had mentioned earlier, but also putting on a better show for our teams, for our fans. So we had fan villages around the country. They weren't always open every day. Some cities chose to open them every day, and they activated that. We supported with content, it making the game more accessible to those that either can't travel or don't want to be in a stadium or couldn't get tickets. So at every point, it's how do we make this as accessible as possible for everyone that might be interested either in rugby, women's sports, women's rugby. And because word of mouth and the city's promotions and us supporting communications around the activations that were happening around each city, players were then attending, showcasing it, promoting it themselves. The cities provided great support in open training sessions, which happened at a team's training venue. So again, their involvement in promoting that a team is training today. Every team had to do at least one during the tournament. It's the same for every Rugby World Cup. But our women's teams did at least 2 each. They loved it. And again, and you don't want to curb that enthusiasm, but you need city support and finances then to deliver safely. But they were all very well received. And again, I suppose right from the start, from when teams arrived, each team, they get a team welcome ceremony, and that's hosted traditionally in an iconic location in each city. So, for example, Exeter, because I was there, it was in Exeter Cathedral. Incredible. And the amount of the local community that were able to attend because the city had given us this venue, were supporting with the activation, the teams are blown away. And it's those wow moments and captured on social media through the various content creators and being able to share that in spread. So if you didn't make it to Exeter, hang on, I know there's another one in another city, we'll go there. But very much, there's only so much we can do as a governing body and I suppose event delivery company, we rely so heavily on our local support, our cities, host cities, insight, local intel and expertise. So I'm based in London, but I have a team in Australia, and they know Australia inside out. I don't know everything about it, but I can pick it up. But ultimately, they know how to work, how to engage, who to engage with, how to get the job done, and how each city operates. So how I functioned in New Zealand was very different to Japan, and again, very different to France. So lots of exciting times ahead.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
very exciting times right there. Now, obviously, when you run events, you've got to do it to the second, okay? And we've got a hard stop at 12:30. So if my maths are right, we've got about 30 seconds, 45 seconds each, starting with Frank. One final, we're going to go Frank, Miriam, and the one last message. I've discussed it or not, takeaway point. The time is yours. Off you go.
Well, I think what's also a nice trend to share, and I think it's also a takeaway or tip, is that a lot of customers of us are using our event app, and they start using also gamification. And that's a completely cool tool to encourage the fan engagements. So sometimes it sounds so simple, but sometimes it is. What we did, before, for example, is that the idea is, okay, you have to collect 10 badges, and when you collect 10 badges, you are able to win a ticket for next year. Start with the first 3 or 4 badges, just really low threshold badges. Actually almost boring, like upload your ticket in your wallet, personalize your ticket, finish your personal details, and enable your geolocation. Because what happens, I don't know if it's the right phrase, but in the Netherlands we say the knife cuts on both sides. You see that the fan experiences, oh, that's cool, I already collected 4 badges from 10, and will continue, so you encourage the participation. On the other hand, it's standard stuff, so they have to do it anyway, so it cuts also on your side, so that thing is done, you don't have to send a reminder anyway. And then the last 6 badges, you make it more tough, and then you include, for example, a sponsor or a partner. Let's go to partner X or to stand X on the venue, and scan this QR code, and then you include also partner activation. So if you do that, you maximize also the brand exposure for your partner. It gives value on the sponsorship, and at the same time, you cover like three parts which I called earlier this panel. Is in the back end, the fan experience, and also the partner and sponsorships. But sometimes what I want to say is that try to make it that easy as possible.
Got it. Thank you, Frank. 30 seconds, Miriam.
Thank you. Well, complementing what they've been talking about and we've been chatting, it's true that the model of traditional sport is changing, and it's changing very quick, and also technology is helping to do so. And we need to adapt to these new changes. No, every company as how they can do this as quick as possible or not, because each company knows how they can adapt to the change. But I think it's important to start being more open-minded, no? Being more observing more what's going on, relying on technology, and getting use of all this information to improve the events, improve the experience, and improve the return of the companies and all the organization, the logistic, and at the end, being more profitable and more effective, no? Without leaving, not combining this effort in technology, in this data, in this knowledge with the teams. Teams are really important, and when we have a good team with experience and expertise, this combination, I think it's brilliant, and this helps us to put all these events at the maximum level.
Okay, thank you.